Thank you, Gavin, and good afternoon, everyone. I guess this for me is quite a special moment because every time we got special news and things to talk about, the Noosa conference is normally right on the next week or two. So when I stood here 7 years ago for Aeris Resources, I would have said to you, we got $110 million in debt. We're busy restructuring the debt. We want to grow the business. And we got one copper mine, the Tritton copper mine. 2 years ago, we stood here and we said, well, now we got two mines. We bought the Krakow gold mine from Evolution. We had zero debt and we had money in the bank and we want to grow the business. Today, I can stand here and say, on the 1st of July, exactly 2 years later, we did another transaction where we bought the Round Oak assets from Washington Soul Patts and now have 4 operating mines across Australia and a long life project in Victoria, which we're planning to build, with still zero debt and $81 million in the bank. So it's been a very exciting time and a really exciting story for us to get to this point. And now it's all about how do we go forward with these 4 operating mines, all generating operating cash flow, and how do we invest and grow the future of the business. So we'll talk about a little bit about that. At market capitalization, as of yesterday, it was 263. As of this morning, it's over $300 million. And that was on the back of an announcement we put out this morning around the Golden Plateau deposit around Krakow, which looks very interesting, and I'll show you some of those. As part of the acquisition of the Round Oak assets from Washington Soul Patts, they ended up with a 30% share in Aeris. They will be a long-term major shareholder with us and will go on the journey with us on how do we grow and extract value for shareholders from the business. You can see down the bottom who's actually following the stock, and please feel free to read those reports. There you go. Currently, the board, fairly small board. We do have now Robert Milner from Washington Soul Patts has joined us on the board to represent their 30%. And then the executive team has been together. We've been together for over 12, 13 years as CFO and COO, and Kim Franks has been with us for just on 2 years after we bought the Krakow mine. On the sustainability side, we put our first sustainability report out in 2021. Now you can go all in with sustainability and have a list this long to focus on. But as a company, we decided to look at the 4 strategic areas for us in the next few years and actually get our data ready, get our actions in place. And really it goes down to water management. A few years ago, some of you might remember, at Tritton we nearly ran out of water. So it is a very topical discussion for us and something to control. Then you've got climate change, diversity and inclusion. We all know that is a critical part of doing business these days. And on the biodiversity side, you're not going to run a business without the major focus on that. And on the Stockman project, that will be a key player for us in how do we develop the Stockman project. Just to quickly touch on FY22, you'll see the share price. I think we are significantly below where we should be. There's some reasons for it. And FY22 has been a challenging year at operational level. But the mine still delivered pretty good results. Krakow still got very close to the guidance at 54,000 ounces. Tritton achieved the guidance, but the key deliverable out of Tritton is how do we grow Tritton from a 20,000 or 18,000 ton producer to a 30,000 ton producer within the next 3 years, and we'll touch on that. So a lot of new development, a lot of investment is going into Tritton to actually bring in higher grade deposits as we're getting to the bottom of the Tritton underground mine. And at a corporate level, as I said, we finished the transaction. It's now all about the integration of the 4 mines and starting up the development project. So you put that in concept. The Tritton mine, currently, I stood here 10 years ago, probably not 10 years ago. 10 years ago when we got involved with the business, we said there's 4 years life in Tritton. Today we're saying there's 8+ years life in Tritton. And that's all the back of discovery of another deposit, which is called Constellation, and that will extend the mine life beyond the 10 years and increase the production output. The Krakow mine we bought 2 years ago from Evolution. We said there's 2 years life, but we think there's more. 2 years later, we're saying there's 4-year life, and we think there's more. And it just goes back to some of these deposits. They just keep going. You just need to keep the exploration going and you'll be able to extend those mines. The Jaguar mine is the mine we bought from Washington Soul Patts. It's in WA. In 8 months ago, they had 2 to 3 years mine life. Since then, they discovered another deposit lower down in the mine, which will extend it to 4+ year mine life. And then Mount Colin is a mine up near Mount Isa. Currently has a fixed 2 years life. Will generate significant cash over the 2 years because capital is spent. It's just in a harvesting mode. But that allows us into footprint to see how do we grow a substantial and a long life business in that region. We all know there's a lot of copper around, there's a lot of other metals around. Really it comes down to how do we build a business while we're in that region with a model which works. We basically mine underground with a contractor, send it to currently Ernest Henry or Mount Isa for treatment and generate good cash out of it. And then of course the Stockman project, we will touch a little bit more on it, but the whole aim is to get it into production in the next 2 years, and that will add another 30,000 tons of copper equivalent to the business. So you can see on that within 2 or 3 years, we can easily produce more than 70,000, 80,000 tons of copper equivalent out of these mines. The beauty of what we have is the diversity. So we got copper, we got zinc, we got gold, and we got silver. So when we're in this commodity cycle we're in, not all the commodities has come down. Some of them held very stable through some of this, especially in Australian dollar terms. I'll just touch briefly on the assets. So Tritton Mine has been around for a while. You can see on that on the southern side of that road, that's where all the activity has been since 2005, and actually before that, more than 750,000 tons of copper has either been discovered or mined in that southern region. In the last 3 or 4 years, we started to look at that northern side. So we did an EM survey a few years ago, and we discovered the Constellation deposit. Now, Constellation will end up being 8 to 10 million ton, around 2% ore body, which is really what we were looking for. And we now just finished airborne EM survey, exactly the same a model which we applied there to that further northern part of the tenement package. So we're very confident that there's further potential to extend. And what we've also seen in the last year, the current Tritton and Murrumbidgee underground mines keep on extending. A year ago we said, well, there's perhaps a year or so left. Today the budgets which we've done say there's further extensions. The key takeaway for Tritton is how do we deliver that production profile? How do we go from 18,000 tons of copper to 30,000 tons of copper in the next 2 or 3 years? Now it all goes around, the Tritton underground mine is deep. The grade has been going down, mining around 1.2, 1.3% copper, while the deposits we're busy bringing online, so Budgerigar is actually now in production. That is coming in at 1.7, 1.8% copper. The Avoca Tank mine, development's got another about 300 meters to go before we can start to look at the stoping side. Stoping will start then Q4 FY23, but the grade in there is 2.5% copper and really good gold. And then Constellation, as I said earlier, is a sizable ore body. So it's all about how do we get out of the lower grade Tritton deposit and then bring in these high grade deposits. So as you go into those, you'll see that production profile. And then once you're at 30,000 tons, you'll remain at that for quite a while. At Krakow, as I said, we bought it 2 years ago. We think there's more than 4 years life. We are moving away from mining in the old mining areas where we're going back to primary stopes. So Rose's Pride will start to play a big role for us. But one of the announcements we put out this morning was around Golden Plateau. Golden Plateau has been mined before. It's close to the current plant. We originally started drilling there a few months ago thinking there's one structure. As the geologists got their head around the geology, we now believe there's 5 structures. Now, if that is the case, and some of the numbers you can see there is pretty good grades, and some of the announcements we put out is higher than those on the slide, become potential 5 working areas, which means it can become a very sizable deposit for the future of Krakow. So that can be a game changer for Krakow as we drill this out and bring it into production pretty soon, within the next 2 years or so. Then you look at Jaguar. It's similar size to Krakow, about 600,000 tons. It's similar layout, mining one underground mine, and in a very prospective area within WA. this is what has happened. So when Round Oak bought it, they bought it with only about 18-month life. In the last 7, let's say 8 months, all those new discoveries, the Flying Spur Deeps, Turbo, and Spectres, all been discovered, and we're busy drilling those out. So as those get into a resource statement, the extensions of life will happen, and we'll get a lot more confidence about those specific deposits. So a lot of excitement around those. It has been one of those, hasn't been drilled a lot in the last few years. We believe it's been starved a bit of capital in terms of exploration, and the geologists of the mine's got a view, if you keep drilling, you'll find. And that is what we're seeing. So that is a great, I've been there last week, great asset. There's everything we expected is what we're seeing. Great management team, great team at the mine, and they were ready for change. And I think it's going to be a very good journey for them with Aeris. The other one is North Queensland asset, so that's a Mount Colin mine. Not a big mine, but it's basically a simple model, mined by contractors, haulage to either Glencore or Ernest Henry, and it gets treated. That model is something you can roll out to other areas around that region. We all know how many explorers is around. But the next one for us is Barbara. Barbara has been mined as an open pit mine. We are busy doing the studies to ensure that it can work as an underground mine. So the whole idea is you pick up your camp, you pick up your officers, take your contract, and you move across to Barbara and start that as the next underground mine. The business development team, which has now been established in Aeris under the new structure, has been tasked to, within the next 6 months, use this footprint to see how do we grow a business which will last for the next 10 years by engaging with people around the area with the regional opportunities to see how we can extend further with the strategic footprint in North Queensland. Getting into Stockman. So Stockman is in Victoria. It's about a 45-minute drive from a town called Omeo. This has been a project that's been around for a while, but the grade sitting there is sitting at about 4.7 copper equivalent grades. Now, any project with those sort of grades, shallow underground mines will have a future. It has been, a feasibility study was done in 2012. What we're going to do, the Round Oak guys did another study. We're going to take that study. I believe you need to build a 21st century mine, especially where that is. It's a beautiful part of the world. There has been an old mine, so there's already a tailings dam there. And we have got the mining lease approval, got the approval to use the tailings dam, and we own the property. If you got those three, you got the project. You now need to go do all the minor projects, minor approvals for water, fire hazards, and all of those sort of things you need to do. So the current plan is to redo the feasibility study, or not redo it, go through it again to make sure all the practices we there is according to our ESG drivers and what we want to do, and ensure we bring the public, local communities with it. We see this project as similar to what we do at Tritton. Tritton is the same, it's about 40 minutes from town. We only use regional and local workforce. This is a typical example. We can do exactly that and then bring this into production for another 30,000 tons of copper within the next 2 or 3 years. I guess that's sort of Aeris. The plan for the year is all about focusing on the implementation and the integration of the business, reset the business for the future, focus on each one, allocate capital where we get the best returns for growth. So organic growth is going to be critical. Get the Stockman project up and running, make an investment decision by the March quarter next year, and then take that further. We do have a booth. You're welcome to come around, and we're open for any questions. Thank you very much.